Hi, I'm Julia, and welcome back to English Without Limit. I'm really happy you're here today, and I want to start by asking you something simple, but important. Have you ever wondered if it's actually possible to speak English in 30 days? Not just learning a few words, not just watching videos or reading subtitles, but truly speaking it, using your own voice, expressing your ideas, and understanding others. It's a big promise, right? And to be honest, I used to roll my eyes whenever I saw this idea online. Speak English in 30 days sounded more like a marketing trick than a realistic goal. But then I started collecting stories, talking to learners, and noticing something interesting. It wasn't about becoming fluent or sounding perfect in a month. It was about making a shift. And today, I want to talk to you about that shift. I want this episode to feel honest, because I know how overwhelming English can feel sometimes. It's not just about vocabulary and grammar. It's about courage. It's about confidence. And more than anything, it's about showing up every day, even when it's uncomfortable. I've met people from different countries, backgrounds, and situations, and many of them tried something they'd never done before, a simple 30-day experiment. They didn't always get it right, and that's the beauty of it. Their stories show that progress isn't about perfection. It's about movement. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever started a language challenge or a new routine and stopped after a few days? Maybe you told yourself, I'll start again on Monday, or maybe next month will be better. You're not alone. We've all done that. We have great intentions, but life gets in the way. Or we try to do too much, too fast, and end up frustrated. That's why I love the idea of 30 days. It's short enough to feel possible, but long enough to see change. It's not magic, it's momentum. And here's the good news. You don't need to learn thousands of words or memorize grammar rules. You just need to speak. Speak a little more than yesterday. Speak even if you're not sure. Speak even if you have an accent. Even if you pause. Even if it sounds strange to you. That's how you get better. That's how you start feeling like someone who speaks English, not just someone who studies it. Let me be clear. This is not a quick fix. I'm not going to promise that you'll speak perfectly in 30 days. That's not the goal. The goal is to get your voice out of your head, to stop waiting for the right moment, to stop preparing and start practicing. Because practice is where the real learning happens. And if you're wondering whether it's too late for you, let me remind you. There's no perfect age, no perfect accent, no perfect background. English belongs to all of us, not just native speakers. I've heard beautiful English from people in Seoul, Istanbul, Berlin, Lagos, and Mumbai. Their grammar wasn't always perfect, but their message was. That's what communication is. And that's what we care about here at English Without Limit. If this sounds like something you need, I'd love for you to be part of this journey with me. Go ahead and follow or subscribe to the podcast. When you do that, you help English Without Limit grow. You help us reach more people just like you. People who want to speak, who want to be understood, who want to stop feeling like English is holding them back. Every follow, every share is one more way we keep this movement alive. So thank you for doing that. Now, before we move on, I want to share something personal with you. When I started helping people learn English, I believed the biggest obstacle was grammar. I thought people needed to study harder, remember more words, and do more drills. But the more people I met, the more I realized something else. The real obstacle wasn't knowledge. It was fear. Fear of sounding wrong. Fear of judgment. Fear of making a mistake in front of others. And do you know what breaks that fear? Speaking. Sometimes we think we need to prepare more before we speak, but that's backwards. You don't get ready to speak. You get ready by speaking. Every sentence you say, even if it's short or simple, builds your confidence. Every time you say, "I don't know the word for this, but I'll try," you train your brain to adapt. That's the power of trying. That's the power of effort over perfection. I want you to remember this phrase: progress, not perfection. Say it to yourself: progress, not perfection. That's what this challenge is really about. Because if you expect perfection, you'll always be disappointed. But if you expect growth, small, daily growth, you'll be surprised at how far you go. Let me also share a little trick that many learners use. They focus on what I call survival sentences. These are phrases you use all the time. Sentences like, "Can you help me? What does this mean? I don't understand." Or, "Can you say that again?" These are your tools. They may sound basic, but they are powerful. If you can say 10 useful sentences and use them confidently, that's already speaking English. That's already a win. Another thing I want to be honest about. Some days will feel boring. Some days you'll feel like you're not improving. That's part of the process. In fact, most progress in English feels invisible. You might not feel different after 3 days, or even after a week. But after 30 days, if you stay consistent, you'll look back and see just how far you've come. It's not always loud progress. Sometimes it's quiet, but it's there. So, how do you start? Just pick one sentence that you can say out loud every day. Maybe it's, "Today I feel tired," or "I'm learning English," or "I want to speak better." It doesn't matter what the sentence is. What matters is that you say it. Don't just think it. Say it. Use your voice. Because your voice is your connection to others. It's how people hear you. It's how you show up in English. Let's talk about the phrase, "Speak English in 30 days." Because there's a lot of confusion around what it really means. I've seen people get excited, then frustrated, because they believed the promise was fluency or even perfection in just 1 month. But that's not what this challenge is really about. If you expect to speak like a native, with perfect grammar, no accent, and full vocabulary, after 30 days, you'll probably feel disappointed. But if you shift your mindset and focus on what actually matters, confidence, clarity, and connection, you'll realize how much can change in such a short time. When I say, "Speak English in 30 days," I'm not talking about sounding like someone born in London or New York. No, it's much more real than that. It means speaking with your voice, your personality, and your story. That's what speaking really is. It's not about copying someone else's accent or memorizing long academic phrases. It's about expressing your thoughts in a way that someone else can understand. And that doesn't take perfection. It takes intention, commitment, a bit of courage, every single day. So let's get honest about what this challenge is and what it isn't. It's not about mastering every tense, phrasal verb, or academic word. You won't suddenly give perfect presentations or win debates in English by day 30. That's not the point. The point is unlocking your voice, going from silence to speaking, from hesitation to action, to stop thinking of English as just a subject to study and start treating it as a tool you use. One of the biggest changes people experience during this challenge isn't their vocabulary, it's their mindset. Many learners start thinking they're not ready to speak. They believe they need more grammar books, more time, more perfect conditions. But here's the truth. Waiting doesn't prepare you to speak. Speaking prepares you to speak. When you open your mouth and say something, even something small, you learn faster than just listening or reading. You stop being a student and start being a communicator. Let me tell you about Leah from Paris. Last year, she joined a 30-day challenge. She wasn't confident and barely spoke English at work, even though her job required it. She told me she always stayed quiet, afraid to say something wrong. But during the challenge, she made a simple rule. 1 sentence a day. Just one. She said it out loud, sometimes to herself, sometimes to colleagues. By the end of week 1, she was saying 3 or 4 sentences without thinking. By day 30, she was participating in meetings. Not perfectly, but clearly. That's progress. That's what it means to speak English in 30 days. Then there's Ahmed, an engineer in Dubai. He had studied English for years, but never felt comfortable speaking. He said, "I always felt like I was studying for a test, not talking to real people." But he changed when he stopped worrying about perfect grammar and started using simple, useful phrases like, "Let me check." "Can you explain that?" Or, "I think we need more time." Those simple sentences gave him a voice. And in 30 days, that voice grew louder, clearer, more confident. That's the heart of this challenge. Not perfection, but progress. Not complexity, but clarity. And definitely not silence, connection. You don't need fancy words to be understood. You need to say something real. Most real English conversations use simple language. Phrases like, "I'm not sure," "What do you mean?" and "Let's try again." These sentences keep conversations alive and help you connect. So, if you're thinking about this challenge, remember, the goal isn't to impress with perfect English. It's to connect, to understand, and be understood. Clarity beats complexity every time. If someone understands you, you've succeeded. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, even if you pause, even if you make mistakes, the message matters, and clarity comes from practice, not perfection. Many learners waste time chasing native-like accents or advanced vocabulary. But here's what I've learned. Some of the most powerful speakers use the simplest words. The best communicators are clear, not complicated. So in this challenge, we focus on what works. Useful, everyday English. That's what builds fluency. That's what brings your English to life. Think of learning English like learning to swim. You don't jump into the deep end first. You get your feet wet, learn to float, and breathe. Then take small strokes. Same with English. Start with what you can say now. Add a phrase, a word, a sentence every day. Say it out loud. Use it in real situations. Repeat until it feels natural. That's how fluency begins. And if you feel embarrassed, that's normal. Everyone feels that way. Even native speakers get nervous in a new language. But the key is to speak anyway. Speak even if your voice shakes. Speak even if you're unsure. That's how you get stronger. That's how you build a habit. And that's what this challenge is really about. Building the habit of speaking. Not once in a while, not just when you feel ready, but every day, for 30 days. Because language isn't something you learn and shelve. It's something you live, use, practice. Speaking just 5 minutes a day beats hours of silent study. This challenge isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, saying, "Today I will speak," even if it's only one sentence. So when I say, speak English in 30 days, I mean this. Speak without fear. Speak honestly. Speak to connect. That's what matters. That's what works. That's how change begins. Let me share one last story. Mark's story. Mark is a 32-year-old graphic designer in Paris. When he first contacted me, he was honest. "Julia, I've learned English since school. I understand movies, read articles, write emails, but when it comes to speaking, I freeze. I'm scared I'll sound silly." That fear had held him back for years. Mark's story is familiar. It's not that people don't know English, it's that they don't trust themselves to use it. Mark had colleagues from the US, Canada, India, and they often spoke English in meetings. He stayed quiet, hoping not to be asked to speak. His heart raced, palms sweated, mind blank. Why? He was terrified of sounding foolish, imagining people judging his mistakes or accent. But here's the truth Mark hadn't seen. Most people don't care about perfect grammar. They care about your message. They want clear, human communication. I told Mark this. For the first time, he saw a small window of possibility. He took the 30-day challenge with a simple rule. Say at least one sentence out loud every day, no matter how short or awkward. On day 1, Mark stood in front of the mirror and said, "I want to speak better English." He laughed at himself. "I feel ridiculous," he said. But he did it. He spoke. That's more than most do on day 1. By day 2, "I want to speak better English because I want to share my ideas." Awkward again, but spoken. He was building a habit, not perfection. In week 1, Mark practiced mostly alone. To the mirror, his cat, even his coffee mug. Simple sentences like, "Today is cold." "I have a meeting later." "I feel tired." He was breaking the silence, teaching his brain it's okay to speak, even imperfectly. By week's end, he felt brave. In week 2, Mark raised the challenge. He started greeting colleagues in English on video calls. A quick, "Hi, how are you?" at meetings. His voice was shaky, but he kept going. One day, a colleague said, "I like your accent, Mark. It's great to hear you speak." That moment hit him. He realized the fear was in his head, not reality. That changed everything. He stopped waiting for perfect moments or perfect sentences, started asking questions like, "Can you repeat that? Do you mean this?" He was connecting, not impressing. One sentence became a conversation. Fear became confidence. Mark said, "I thought I needed perfect grammar to be respected, but people respect me more now that I'm trying." By week 3, Mark joined after-work calls, not just listening, but speaking, sharing thoughts, joking a little, not fluent always, sometimes searching for words, but no longer afraid. That fear, his silence, lost power each time he spoke. He told me, "I stopped fighting mistakes. I learn from them. Every time I make a mistake and someone still understands me, I know I don't have to be perfect." That's a lesson for all of us. Many fear mistakes. But mistakes are how we learn. They're not proof of failure. They're proof that you're trying, that you're showing up. Mark once told me that when he let go of the fear of sounding silly, that's when he started having fun with English. He played with new words. He tried to describe ideas with the vocabulary he had. He started watching short interviews on YouTube and repeating phrases he liked. He even began writing down one new sentence a day that he wanted to try using in real life. His challenge had become part of his routine. Not pressure, but practice. By day 30, Mark wasn't a different person, but he was a different speaker. He didn't avoid English anymore. He welcomed it. He still made mistakes. He still paused sometimes. But he spoke with confidence because he realized something he didn't believe before. People understand him, even if he's not perfect. And that belief gave him power. Looking back on Mark's journey, I see more than progress in English. I see a mindset shift. I see someone who replaced fear with action and silence with connection. He didn't wait to feel ready. He didn't wait to be perfect. He started with one sentence. And that one sentence changed his story. That's what I hope for anyone listening today. If you've ever felt like Mark, if you've avoided speaking because you're scared of sounding silly, I want you to know it's okay. That fear is normal, but it doesn't have to control you. You can take the smallest step, say the simplest sentence, and begin something powerful, just like Mark did. That's the confidence formula. Speak first, fix later. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a real, practical strategy I've seen work over and over again. If you've ever been afraid to speak because you don't want to make a mistake, then this is for you. Think about a child learning their first language. Do they wait until they understand every grammar rule? Of course not. They speak with broken sentences. They mix up words. They use the wrong tense all the time. But they speak, and no one tells them to stop. In fact, people usually smile, encourage them, and help them along the way. That child learns faster, because they are allowed to make mistakes without fear. But when we become adults, something changes. We start thinking we have to be correct all the time. We believe people will laugh or judge us if we say the wrong thing. That fear becomes a wall, and it stops us from opening our mouths at all. Here's the truth. That wall doesn't come from the language. It comes from the pressure we put on ourselves. I've spoken with hundreds of learners, and almost every single one tells me the same thing. I know more than I can say. And my answer is always, then say what you can, and let it grow from there. Mark's story is a perfect example. He didn't wait to master grammar. He started with what he had, and because he spoke every day, even if it was just one sentence, he became comfortable. Comfort leads to confidence. You don't get confident by thinking about English. You get confident by using it, even imperfectly. When you speak first and fix later, you do something very important. You put communication before correctness. And from my experience, when people speak clearly, even with mistakes, they are almost always understood. I've worked with learners from Seoul, Madrid, Cairo, and Warsaw. The ones who improved fastest were not those who studied grammar books every night. They were the ones who spoke. They used simple phrases. They repeated words. They sometimes made funny little errors, but they were brave, and bravery is what builds fluency. I remember Elena from Bucharest. She had studied English in school for years, but never spoke it. She always said, "I'm not ready." One day she told me, "Julia, I want to apply for a job that needs English, but I don't think I can." So I gave her a challenge. Speak 1 minute every day. Record yourself. Don't stop. Don't delete. Don't correct. Just speak. At first, she hated it. "My grammar is terrible," she said, but I reminded her, speak first, fix later. After 2 weeks, she sent me a recording where she talked about her job, her hobbies, and her favorite movie, all in English. Was it perfect? number. But it was clear, it was expressive, it was her voice, and she got the job. This is what happens when you remove the fear of making mistakes. You stop holding your breath, you stop translating in your head, you stop overthinking every verb tense. You just speak. You focus on being understood, not on being impressive. And in doing so, you start to enjoy the process. Here's something practical. If you want to try this speak first, fix later approach, start with 1-minute practice. Choose a topic, your day, your plans, something you love. Set a timer. Speak out loud for 60 seconds. Don't worry if it's basic. Don't stop to correct yourself. Just go. Then, if you want, listen back and choose one thing to improve next time. One thing, not 10. Maybe it's using a better word. Maybe it's fixing your pronunciation. But always improve after the fact, not before you speak. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. And progress happens when you use your English, not just when you study it. I like to say this: studying English is like preparing ingredients, but speaking English is like cooking the meal. You can collect all the vocabulary you want, but if you never turn on the stove, you won't taste anything. So speak, mix your words, burn a few sentences. It's okay. That's how you learn. Something magical happens when you decide that speaking badly is still better than not speaking at all. You begin to see your mistakes not as failures, but as steps. The more you speak, the more natural it feels. Eventually, the words come faster, the pauses get shorter. You stop translating and start thinking in English. I've met learners who thought they were bad at English, but really, they were just silent. The minute they gave themselves permission to speak freely, their English improved more in 1 month than it had in years. That's the power of this formula. Speak first. Fix later. Let the learning come after the expression. And here's one more thing I want to share. People are kind. I know that's not always the message we get, but in my experience, most people want to understand you. They're not sitting there waiting for you to mess up. They're hoping you'll connect with them. They're ready to listen. And when you realize that, the pressure starts to fade. You don't have to be funny or clever or brilliant in English. You just have to be real. Real words, real effort, real communication. And you'll be surprised how far that can take you. So remember this: speak now, not later. Use the words you have. Build the habit of talking, even when it feels uncomfortable. The more you speak, the easier it becomes. And once you build that confidence, your fluency will follow. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it to grow. Let me tell you about Aisha. She's a university student from Cairo studying architecture, juggling a schedule so packed that even 15 minutes of free time felt like a luxury. When she first reached out to our community, she told me, "Julia, I want to speak English, but I just don't have the time." That's something I hear so often. Time feels like the biggest obstacle, doesn't it? But what Aisha discovered, and what I want to share with you today, is that it's not about how much time you have, it's about what you do with the time you've got. Aisha gave herself one simple rule: learn one word a day. Just one. No pressure to study long grammar lessons. No need to memorize pages of vocabulary. She committed to learning one word and then using it in a sentence. That was it. She told herself, if I can build one sentence a day, that's 30 sentences in a month. That's 30 moments of using English. That's 30 steps forward. And that's exactly what she did. Each morning before her first class, She took out a small notebook and wrote down a new word. Sometimes it came from a podcast, sometimes from a message online, sometimes from a conversation she overheard on the bus. Then she'd write a simple sentence using that word. And I mean simple. Things like, I enjoy music, or the bus is late. But they were hers. They were real. She built those sentences on her own, and they gave her something she had never felt before: ownership of the language. After about a week, she started to notice something strange. These words began to stick, not because she repeated them 50 times, but because she connected them with something real in her life. One day she wrote the word library, and her sentence was, I study in the library every Thursday. That might seem basic, but when she later told me about that sentence, she said, Julia, I didn't just remember the word, I remembered the whole picture in my head. That's what happens when you create meaning with the language you're learning. By the end of just 30 days, Aisha had built a small but powerful collection of vocabulary. She didn't know every word in the dictionary. She couldn't give a long presentation yet, but she could have short conversations, ask for directions, describe her daily routine, talk about her classes. And most importantly, she had confidence because she built a habit, and that habit gave her momentum. Aisha's story isn't about being fast, it's about being consistent. And consistency is what creates progress. Too often, we believe that learning English means hours and hours of study every single day. But for many people, especially those balancing jobs, school, or family, that's just not realistic. And that's okay. What matters isn't how much time you spend, but how regularly you show up. Even 15 minutes a day, done consistently, can change everything. There's one moment from Aisha's journey I remember clearly. It was day 27 of her challenge, and she messaged me. Today, I spoke to a tourist in English. He asked me where to buy food, and I answered, I used words I learned this month. I didn't plan it. I just did it. That one interaction, that one success made all the difference. It gave her a taste of real communication. And once you get that taste, it's hard to go back. I want you to think about that for a second. Could you give yourself 15 minutes a day? Could you choose one word, make one sentence, and stick with it for 30 days? Think about what you could build. You don't need to wait for the perfect time. You don't need to wait for a free weekend or a long vacation. If you have a phone, a notebook, and a little determination, you have everything you need. This method works because it's simple and achievable. You don't burn out, you don't feel overwhelmed, and you don't need to be perfect. That's something I always come back to. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. Aisha made progress because she let go of the idea that she had to be fluent right away. She gave herself permission to start small, and starting small is often the smartest way to begin. Another thing Aisha did that I found really helpful. She used her environment. She didn't just study words from textbooks, she looked around her world. When she saw something new in English, like a sign or a menu, she took note. When she heard a new word, she didn't ignore it. She made it part of her routine. English became part of her day, not something separate. And that's powerful, because the more you integrate English into your life, the less it feels like a subject, and the more it feels like a tool. One of her favorite tricks was to review her list of 30 words every Sunday. She would take 10 minutes, read through them, and try to say each one in a sentence without looking. And if she forgot one, that was okay. She'd just review it again. She didn't beat herself up. She didn't quit. She kept going, one word at a time, one habit at a time. When I look at Aisha's journey, I see someone who made a smart, realistic choice and followed through with it. She didn't do anything dramatic. She didn't sign up for expensive courses or spend hours on complicated grammar. She just committed to showing up daily with intention. And in the end, that made the biggest difference. If you're listening right now and you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or discouraged, I want you to remember Aisha. Remember that even with limited time, even with a busy life, you can move forward. You can build something meaningful. You can start today with just one word. The important thing is that you start. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Choose a word. Any word. Use it in a sentence. Speak it out loud. Write it down. Make it part of your life. And do it again tomorrow. Because every small action you take in English is a step closer to the speaker you want to become. And you don't have to do it alone. You're part of a community that believes in progress, in showing up, and in celebrating every step of the journey. When I first talked to Aisha, I could tell she wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't chasing fast results or trying to prove something. She just wanted to move forward. And that's what made her different. Her strategy wasn't about being the best student or studying for hours. It was about showing up every single day and doing one small thing. It sounds simple, maybe even too simple, but what she did is what I now call one of the most powerful habits you can build in your English journey. Start small, stay consistent. Let me explain how that works. Aisha had exactly 15 minutes each day. That's not much, right? But instead of worrying about what she couldn't do, she focused on what she could. She told herself, if I can learn one sentence today, I've succeeded. No pressure, no stress, just one sentence. She would choose one word, learn it, and create a simple sentence. Then she would say it out loud 3 times. That was her whole system. At first, she wondered if it would be enough. She told me she felt silly sometimes. Julia, can one sentence really make a difference? But here's what's so powerful about this method. On the first day, it's just one sentence. On the second day, it's 2. On the third, 3. By the end of the first week, she had 7 new sentences she could use, 7 new ways to express herself. And they weren't just random phrases from a textbook, they were her sentences. They connected to her life, her thoughts, her experiences. This kind of learning sticks because it's personal. That's the real secret Aisha discovered. When you create something in your own words, your brain holds on to it. It's not passive learning anymore. You're not just memorizing, you're building. You're shaping your own English voice one piece at a time. And the more personal it is, the more meaningful it becomes. Aisha's consistency created a rhythm. After 2 weeks, her routine felt automatic. She didn't have to push herself. It became part of her morning, like brushing her teeth or checking her messages. That's another reason this method works so well. You're not relying on motivation. You're building a habit. And habits don't need you to feel inspired every day. They just need you to show up. I want to ask you something. Can you learn one sentence a day? Just one. Imagine this. You wake up, grab your notebook or phone, find one new word, and create a sentence. Maybe today's word is weather. So you write, "The weather is nice today." You say it out loud a few times. That's it. You're done. Now imagine you do that tomorrow, and the day after, and the next day. After 30 days, you don't just have 30 sentences. You have a routine, you have confidence, you have momentum. When people think about learning English in 30 days, they usually imagine something intense. Hours of lessons, long grammar drills, huge vocabulary lists. And sure, some people might be able to handle that, but for most of us, it's not realistic. Life is busy, energy runs low, time slips away, and when you try to do too much, you burn out. You quit. That's why Aisha's method works. It fits into your life, not the other way around. Let me give you an example of how she used this in daily life. On day 12, she learned the word tired. Her sentence was, "I feel tired after studying." That day, after a long class at university, she repeated her sentence out loud as she walked home. She laughed when she told me that. "It was true," she said, and saying it in English made it feel more real. That's another benefit of these small steps. You begin to use English to describe your own life. And when that happens, English becomes more than a language. It becomes a tool for expression. She also did something else I recommend to everyone in our community. At the end of each week, she reviewed her sentences. Just 5 or 10 minutes, she didn't test herself. She just read them again, said them out loud, and smiled at the progress. That moment of looking back and seeing how far you've come, that's a powerful motivator. It shows you that your effort is building something. You can see it, hear it, feel it. And here's something I really want you to take with you from this story. You don't need big wins to feel successful. You need small daily proof that you're showing up. Learning one sentence a day doesn't feel like much. But after a month, it's 30 new ways to speak. After 2 months, it's 60. That's not just progress. That's a foundation. Aisha told me she never thought of herself as someone who could speak English. But after her first month, she started saying things like, "I speak a little English now." And that change in identity, from someone who is learning to someone who can speak, is everything. It shifts your mindset. It opens new doors. It makes you brave enough to try. If you're wondering how to start your own 30-day challenge, begin just like Aisha did. Pick one word, keep it simple. Build a sentence that means something to you. Say it out loud. Write it down. And come back tomorrow. The magic is in the repetition. The growth comes from the habit. It doesn't matter if your sentence is perfect. What matters is that you made it, and you used it. This is your journey, and you get to decide how to walk it. You don't have to rush. You don't have to impress anyone. You just have to be consistent. And if you ever feel stuck, come back to this one thought. Can I learn one sentence today? If the answer is yes, then you're already winning. You're not alone in this. You're part of a global community that understands the power of small steps. We've seen how they change lives. And just like Aisha, you can build something real with just 15 minutes a day. So wherever you are right now, I want you to believe that progress is possible. Not someday, today. One sentence at a time. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but I feel silly talking to myself. And I get it. We're not used to it. It feels strange. But let me ask you this. Which is more important? Avoiding a moment of awkwardness or making real progress? Because I promise you, the people who speak well didn't get there by feeling comfortable all the time. They got there by doing things that felt a little weird at first. And this is one of those things worth doing. You don't need to do it for hours. 5 minutes a day is enough to start. Talk about what you're doing. Describe the room around you. Say what you're feeling. Imagine you're telling someone about your day. Today was a good day. I finished my work early. I watched a movie. It was funny. That's English. That's practice. And no one needs to hear you but you. If you like structure, here's a simple routine you can try. In the morning, describe your plan for the day. In the afternoon, describe what you're doing. In the evening, describe what you did. That's it. 3 small speaking moments. They add up. And over time, they build fluency. You can also combine this with journaling. After you say your sentences out loud, write them down or read them aloud from your notebook. This gives you both speaking and writing practice. It also helps you track your progress. You'll be surprised how much you can say after a few weeks. Another tip is to record your voice. Use your phone, press record, and talk for 1 minute. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, you'll hear your improvement. There's something powerful about hearing your own voice in a new language. It makes everything feel real. Remember, you're not waiting for permission. You're not waiting for a perfect situation. You already have everything you need to start. Your voice, your thoughts, your daily life. Use them. Speak to yourself every day and watch how your English grows from the inside out. Let me share a story that I find truly inspiring. It's about Diego, an engineer from Madrid. Like many of us, Diego had a busy schedule. Working full-time, it was hard for him to find hours to attend English classes or join long conversations. So instead of waiting for the perfect time or setting, Diego created his own practice space, using something simple, his phone and voice notes. Every night, for 30 days straight, he recorded himself speaking English. It started with just a few sentences, sometimes reading from notes, sometimes just talking about his day. At first, his voice was hesitant, full of pauses, but he didn't stop. This simple daily action became his secret weapon. By day 15, Diego noticed something remarkable. He was speaking with more ease. The long pauses were fewer, and his sentences started flowing more naturally. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. More importantly, he realized his brain was starting to think in English. This is a huge step, because thinking in the language you're learning means less translation and faster responses. His practice wasn't about getting every word right, but about making English a part of his daily routine, a part of his mindset. What I love about Diego's method is how it fits into a busy lifestyle. It shows you don't need hours of free time or fancy apps. Just a few minutes every day focused on speaking can move you forward. I often hear people say, "I'm too busy," or "I don't have anyone to practice with." Diego's story is a great example of how to break those excuses. Using voice notes lets you practice whenever you can. On the train, during a break, or before bed. And because you're speaking to yourself, there's no pressure, no fear of judgment. It's a safe space to experiment and improve. Recording yourself also gives you a chance to hear your progress. At first, it might be uncomfortable listening to your own voice, but over time, you start noticing improvements. Diego told me that listening back helped him. Spot repeated mistakes. Notice new words he was using. Celebrate small wins. This self-awareness is crucial. It makes learning active, not passive. You're not just repeating. You're learning and correcting as you go. What's also powerful about Diego's story is that he used technology many of us already have. But don't fully use for language learning. Voice notes are simple and accessible. You don't need expensive tools, special programs, or a teacher always by your side. You just need to press record and start talking. This makes practicing speaking much less intimidating. It becomes a habit, something easy to do every day without disrupting your life. Diego also combined this habit with other small steps. Listening to English podcasts during his commute, reading a little every day, and trying to think in English when possible. But the core of his progress was that daily speaking practice through voice notes. It gave him a chance to hear his own voice in English and get used to forming sentences on the spot. This helped him build fluency, which is really about being comfortable with the language, not about perfection. Now, I want you to think about Diego's experience. What can you do today with your phone to practice speaking? Can you record a short voice note telling me what you did today? Maybe a sentence or two about your plans. This small step might feel strange, but it's powerful. It's a way to build a daily habit that fits your life, no matter how busy you are. And remember, it's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding confident and clear. Another thing Diego noticed was that voice notes helped him get out of the silent learner zone. Many people spend years studying English without speaking, and that's where progress slows down. Speaking out loud, even just to yourself, creates new connections in your brain and prepares you for real conversations. Diego's method helped him move from silent to speaker, even without a classroom or speaking partner. So if you feel stuck or shy about speaking English, consider this approach. Start recording yourself. Don't worry about grammar mistakes or pronunciation. Focus on expressing your thoughts and getting used to hearing your English voice. After a few days, try to listen back and notice any changes. You might be surprised by how quickly your confidence grows. Diego's story reminds us that speaking English doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. It's about consistent, simple practice that fits into your daily routine. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one more tip. You might feel like you need to invent sentences from scratch every time you speak, but that's a huge mental load, and it slows you down. What if instead you had a small set of ready-to-use phrases you could pull out anytime? Phrases like, "I'd like some water," or "Can you help me with this?" These are practical, useful, and get you communicating immediately. These phrases help you stay in the conversation without freezing up. They reduce the pressure to create perfect grammar or find the exact word because you already know a phrase that works in many situations. I once met Lena, a marketing specialist from Warsaw. She told me how much she struggled with speaking because she tried to create original sentences every time. She was afraid of sounding repetitive or boring, but when she switched her approach to learning automatic phrases, everything changed. Lena began by learning 10 simple phrases she could use at work, at the grocery store, or even in casual chats. She practiced them until they felt natural. The result? She started speaking with more confidence because she knew exactly what to say, even if it was simple. You see, these phrases become building blocks. When you master one phrase, you don't need to construct a sentence from zero. You can rely on what you already know and then gradually add more words or details. For example, "Can you help me with this?" is a complete question, but you can also extend it if you want. Can you help me with this report? Or, can you help me with this problem? Once you feel comfortable, you can mix and match phrases and words to sound more natural. But the key is to start with the basics and use them often. The power of automatic phrases also comes from the fact that they reduce your mental load. When you speak a new language, your brain works hard to find words, form sentences, and make sure you're correct. If you try to invent everything on the spot, it can feel overwhelming. Automatic phrases help by giving you ready answers. It's like having a toolkit for conversations. When someone asks you a question, you don't have to think for a long time. You can respond quickly and clearly because you already have the phrase in your pocket. One tip I always give is to practice these phrases aloud, even when you're alone. Speaking out loud trains your mouth, your tongue, and your brain to remember the sounds and rhythms of English. This practice builds muscle memory, making it easier to use the phrases naturally when you talk to other people. It's also great for building confidence because you'll feel prepared. Another important point is to choose phrases that are useful for your daily life. Think about situations you face regularly and find phrases that fit. For example, if you often order food, learn phrases like, "I'd like the chicken, please." Or, "Can I have the bill?" If you work in an office, learn phrases like, "Let me check that for you." Or, "Could you send me the file?" By focusing on phrases that fit your life, you make your learning practical and motivating. Automatic phrases can also help you in tricky moments. Sometimes when you don't know what to say next, a phrase like, "Could you please repeat that?" Or, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand," can save the conversation. These phrases are polite and useful. They keep the conversation going and give you time to think without feeling embarrassed. You might wonder if relying on phrases is limiting, or if it means you won't learn grammar. The truth is that learning automatic phrases and grammar are not opposites. They work together. Phrases give you confidence and communication tools. Grammar helps you understand why sentences work and how to create your own sentences later. Starting with phrases is often easier and more practical, especially if your goal is to speak and be understood quickly. When I first learned English, I remember feeling stuck because I wanted to be perfect. I thought I had to create perfect sentences every time I opened my mouth. But then I started memorizing phrases I heard in conversations or movies, and that made a big difference. I realized I could speak clearly even if my grammar wasn't perfect. People focused on understanding me, not judging my mistakes. That shift helped me relax and enjoy speaking more. So here's a simple challenge for you. Pick 5 phrases you find useful today. Practice saying them aloud. Use them in conversations, or even when talking to yourself. Notice how easy it becomes to express your ideas. The more you repeat them, the more automatic they become. Eventually, you'll find yourself speaking more naturally and with less hesitation. Remember, language is a tool for connection. Automatic phrases help you connect faster and with less stress. They are the bridge between knowing English and speaking English. Don't overthink or aim for perfect grammar at the start. Focus on speaking clearly and confidently. Your goal is to communicate and be understood. Phrases give you the power to do just that. Imagine your own toolbox filled with useful English phrases. Each phrase is a key that opens a door to conversation. The more keys you have, the easier it is to open many doors. And the great part is, you can always add new phrases as you grow. You don't need to carry all the keys at once. Start with a few and build from there. As you use these phrases, you'll notice your brain working differently. You start recognizing patterns and sentence structures without trying hard. This automaticity frees your mind to focus on the conversation's meaning instead of grammar rules. That's when speaking becomes fun and natural. One more thing. Don't be afraid to repeat phrases often. Repetition isn't boring in language learning. It's necessary. When you repeat, your brain strengthens the connections that make speech automatic. The more automatic your speech, the faster you can respond in real conversations. So, when you practice today, keep in mind that using automatic phrases is a smart strategy. It gives you confidence, clarity, and speed. It helps you speak English even if you don't know every word or grammar rule. And it makes learning English less stressful and more enjoyable. Let's start with shadowing. Shadowing is one of those habits that's fun, practical, and incredibly effective. Imagine repeating songs and videos every day, just like Anna did. She gave herself the chance to sound more natural and confident in English, not by waiting for perfection, but by simply practicing consistently. And that made all the difference. If you want to speak English more naturally, why not try shadowing? Find songs or videos that you love and start repeating them today. Pay attention to how your mouth and brain start working together in a new way. This simple practice is a powerful way to improve your pronunciation and gain confidence, even if you have only 10 or 15 minutes a day. Remember, the key is consistency and enjoying what you do. Just like Anna, you can build your English skills by practicing every day with content you enjoy. Don't rush. Repeat your favorite parts many times because repetition is how your brain learns. Anna's experience is a great reminder. Learning English doesn't have to be boring or stressful. You can have fun and improve at the same time. The secret is to find a method that feels right for you and stick with it. Shadowing helped Anna develop natural rhythm and pronunciation, and it can do the same for you. So, go ahead and give it a try. Your voice is waiting to sound confident and clear. Now, I want to talk about something you might find surprising, but is actually very important for language learning. Fun. Yes, making your English learning fun can help you remember what you learn much better. You might think learning a language means hours of hard study, drills, and endless grammar rules. But the best learning happens when you enjoy the process. Emotion fuels memory. When you feel good about what you're doing, your brain is more ready to absorb new information and keep it long term. I've seen many learners from all over the world find ways to connect with English through things they love, music, movies, games, or topics they're passionate about. These learners tend to improve faster because their brains associate English with positive feelings. Think about it. When you're laughing, singing, or curious, your brain is in a state that makes it easier to remember new words and phrases. It's like the difference between studying vocabulary from a boring list and learning words through a funny video or catchy song. The latter sticks with you much more. I remember talking to Ila from Istanbul. She told me that when she started watching English comedy shows and laughing out loud, her vocabulary grew without even trying hard. She wasn't studying. It felt like fun. That joy created a strong connection between words and feelings, making it easier to recall words when speaking. Learning that feels like play, not pressure, makes all the difference. Think about how children learn their first language by playing, exploring sounds, and being curious in joyful environments. They don't sit with grammar books. They engage emotionally with their surroundings. We can do the same with English. When you find joy in your learning, your brain is more motivated, energized, and your memory and speaking improve naturally. Another great example comes from Omar, a software developer in Seoul. Omar turned his English practice into a game, competing with friends to learn new words or making up funny stories with new phrases. Even on tired or unmotivated days, the fun kept him coming back. When learning feels like a game, you build skills and train your brain to enjoy the challenge instead of dreading it. Emotion also helps you remember context. Learning a phrase during a gripping movie scene or fun conversation links that phrase to feelings you had, making it easier and more natural to use later. That's why learning through stories, songs, and enjoyable conversations is so powerful. So, how can you bring more fun into your English learning? Start by choosing content that excites you. If you like music, find English songs and genres you love. Listen actively, try to understand, and sing along. If you love stories, pick shows, podcasts, or books that grab your interest. When you're curious and emotionally involved, your brain lights up and learning becomes part of your day. Try involving friends or family too. Learning together or sharing discoveries makes it more lively and enjoyable. You might create little challenges, a vocabulary quiz, or storytelling contest. Social interaction adds emotion because you feel connected, supported, and motivated. It's also important to let go of the idea that learning English must be serious all the time. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, joke with words, or be silly. Sometimes the best memories come from laughing at your own errors or trying new sounds. Those moments stick with you and encourage you to keep going. Learning is a long journey, and motivation can be tough. When you add fun, you fuel your motivation tank. It's like turning a task into an adventure. You wake up looking forward to your next English practice because it's not a chore, but something that brings you joy. From my own experience and many learners I've met, that emotional connection to what you learn is the secret ingredient to turning a 30-day challenge into a lifelong habit. When you enjoy your practice, it stops being a challenge and becomes a part of life you cherish. This is when true progress happens, and it feels rewarding every step of the way. Next, let me share a practical tip that helped one learner named Riku from Tokyo. Riku started writing simple journal entries every day, just a few sentences about his day, feelings, or plans. For example, today I walked in the park. The weather was nice. I saw many people smiling. I felt happy. I want to learn more English tomorrow. These weren't complicated sentences, but by expressing his thoughts in English daily, he began organizing ideas more clearly and naturally. This habit helped him connect English to his own life, making it meaningful and easier to remember. After a few weeks, Riku noticed his thoughts in English flowed more smoothly, not just in writing, but also when speaking spontaneously. Speaking out loud every day trained his brain to think in English, rather than translating from his native language first. Riku's journal was also a safe space. Many learners fear making mistakes, but since this was just for himself, he felt free to try, fail, and learn without pressure. This freedom helped him overcome fear. Over time, he became excited to express ideas in English. Another benefit, seeing a month's worth of entries gave him a strong sense of progress. Even on tough days, he could look back and see how far he'd come. That motivation boost is huge. The best part? This method fits into everyday life. You don't need special classes or hours of study, just a little time, a notebook or app, and commitment. No perfect grammar or fancy words needed, just simple sentences about your day or thoughts. This makes learning manageable and less overwhelming. If you're shy about speaking, try reading your journal sentences out loud every day. It might feel strange at first, but it helps your mouth and brain get used to English sounds and structures. Speaking aloud will eventually feel natural and boost your confidence for real conversations. Riku's story is a reminder. Learning English is about habit and mindset. His no-excuse rule wasn't about pushing too hard, but about gently encouraging himself to keep moving forward no matter what. This attitude makes learning part of your lifestyle. Even on busy or tired days, a few minutes of writing and speaking keeps your skills alive. Many learners wait for the perfect moment or give up when progress feels slow. But Riku shows small daily efforts add up. Consistency beats intensity. If you want to try the no-excuse journal, keep it simple and personal. Write about things that matter to you, your day, your thoughts, what you notice or plan. Speak those sentences out loud like you're talking to a friend. Don't worry about mistakes. They're part of learning. The key is to keep going every day. Now, I want you to remember this. Don't aim for perfection. So many get stuck waiting to say the perfect sentence or have perfect grammar. But that's not the goal. The goal is progress. Even small steps forward are wins. If you speak one sentence today and then one more tomorrow, imagine where you'll be in 30 days. It may sound simple, but repetition and practice are the real keys to unlocking your English speaking ability. Think back to the stories today. Mark from Paris overcame his fear by speaking out loud, one sentence at a time. Aisha from Cairo built vocabulary with tiny daily habits. Diego from Madrid used voice notes to make speaking part of his routine. Anya from Warsaw found joy and progress through songs and shadowing. Riku from Tokyo used a daily journal and a no-excuse rule to make English part of his life. These are real people, just like you. They didn't start perfect, but they made progress by practicing consistently and making English part of their everyday lives. So, reflect now. What inspired you most today? Was it the idea of starting small, the power of speaking to yourself daily, or having your own no-excuse rule like Riku's journal? Whatever it is, think about how you can take that idea and make it your own. Your English journey is unique, and what works for one may need adjustment for you. But the important thing is to start. Start with something manageable. One sentence, a short voice note, or a few lines in a journal. The key is to keep going every day. Remember, learning English is a journey, not a race. There will be easier days and tough days. That's normal. What matters is showing up for yourself and practicing, even a little bit. Progress builds one day at a time, and your commitment adds up. The habit you build now creates a strong foundation for your future English. Thank you for joining me on English Without Limit today. If this episode helped you, please subscribe so you won't miss future tips and stories. Your subscription helps more people find our community and join this journey. Also, Consider leaving a review or sharing your thoughts. It's a great way to encourage others. Finally, keep practicing. Make English part of your daily routine. Speak out loud. Write your thoughts. Listen to English songs. Watch videos. Use whatever method feels right. The more you expose yourself and actively use English, the faster you'll improve. And be kind to yourself. Learning is challenging, but also exciting and rewarding. Here's a simple challenge. Speak one sentence in English today, then one more tomorrow. Keep that promise for 30 days. Track your progress and celebrate your wins, no matter how small. You're building a skill that opens doors, connects you with the world, and changes your life. I'm Julia, and I'm proud of every step you take towards speaking English confidently. Keep practicing. Keep believing in yourself. And remember, we are all learning together. Until next time on English Without Limit, take care.